Don't settle for being just an entrepreneur. Become a business owner and become free, because we all do this so that we can be free.
Welcome to Life, Business, and Everything in Between, the podcast for small business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs navigating the space between big dreams and everyday chaos. I am Leslie Shields, a longtime entrepreneur married to another crazy entrepreneur and raising a tiny human in the middle of it all. This show brings you real conversations, honest insights, and practical encouragement to help you keep going. Whether you're building a brand, pivoting through change, or just trying to lead yourself, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Collette, welcome to the pod. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank
And
you. I'm happy to be here. I'm always excited to get to hang out with Leslie.
awesome. And so Collette and I know each other professionally. We know a little bit about each other personally. And so I am super excited about getting to know her journey.
Yeah. I'm excited to share.
And from the outside, it looks like you've had a really big impact and you've worked across a lot of industries and stepped into leadership roles and helped grow multiple businesses in meaningful ways. But what I'm really interested in is the path on how you got here, the decisions and the pivots and the, 3 a.m.s and the really, really hard stuff, because that's what we're here. We're here to share the authentic journeys of entrepreneurship, because a lot of things right now make it look Instagram pretty. And a lot of people think that this is super sexy and you get to travel whenever you want, do whatever you want. But entrepreneurs, we all know that that is not really what this looks like.
No. This shit's hard.
This shit is
Can I say
hard.
that?
You can say that. We have language disclaimers on the pod, because that's part of being real and authentic is occasionally that there some passion comes out in our language.
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I am Dr. Collette Portis. First, I am woman. Second, I am Black woman. Third, I am daughter. Fourth, I am sister. Fifth, I am mom. And sixth down the line, I am entrepreneur. Yeah,
Identity's there.
yeah. And a lot of times I like to say it that way because as entrepreneurs, more often than not, we start with that, and that becomes the anchor almost of who we are, and success and perceived failure gets connected to that, and it's devastating. And
We
I
like to say
remember
on the pod that you are more than your business.
well, absolutely. I am more than that. I was a whole lot more than that before that part of my journey began. And so remembering that helps you to manage the opportunities to learn, because I think failure only happens when you quit. If you don't quit, then you didn't fail. Hopefully you learned something, you made a pivot and you moved forward. So
And your career and your company is multi-layered. It has worked with a lot of different businesses. Why don't you kind of give a 50,000 foot overview, and then let's dial it down a little bit to what the day to day looks like.
yeah, I'll have to start with where I started. And every time I tell my story, it makes me chuckle because it is weird. So the first company I launched um, is a design firm. It's still going. It's a branding and design firm. And that journey started at the age of 11. We got for spring break, there was this camp, this computer camp happening. And back in that day, no, people didn't have computers in their homes for the most part. So I wanted to learn what as much as I could about this thing, and I didn't. I don't think my parents know to this day. So I begged my mom if I could go to my grandma's house, because the school it was being held at was down the street from my grandmother's house. And she said yes. So I stayed at my grandma's, and I'm up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm getting dressed. And my stepdad goes, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "To the school." And because I'm not a bad kid or anything like that, he's like, "Okay." So he watches me walk down the street and walk into the school. And what none of them know is that I went to this computer camp. And that week, what they taught us, now, mind you, Leslie, this is back when computers are DOS based. Yes, there's a floppy disk. There's no mouse. There's a left and a right, I mean, a up and a down arrow. There's no left and right arrow. And they taught us, there's no pictures on computers at this point. And they taught us how to use letters and numbers, create a man, and make him walk from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen all by himself. I
Mhm.
was fascinated. I was like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And so my journey in design started there. And when, of course, I went to college, that's what I went to college for. And I started designing for all of these small businesses and churches and things like that along the way. And then at the age of 14, I went to work for the federal government. And by 16 years old is when it switched from Microsoft Works to Microsoft Word and that whole suite. And because I was learning it in high school, I had all the master certifications, and it was my boss's job to train our reservists from colonels on down. That man didn't know anything at all about Microsoft. He didn't know how to use it. So I'm creating all the presentations. I'm the one hitting the button because we didn't have a clicker back then. So I'm
Mhm.
changing the slides. And while I'm changing the slides, I'm going, that is so not the right way to do that. And so eventually he goes, well, Colette, if you know better, then you teach it. So I'm like, just do this because I knew the hotkeys and things like that. And eventually it ended up being me teaching, and people being flown in to sit with me from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., which is when I was working after school, for me to teach them how to deploy this to their units, how to create processes, how to implement this, and all of that stuff. And so that's where my journey began as it pertains to strategy, consulting, processes, procedures, and all of that at the age of 16. And then now you have to know that I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So my mom, my dad, both sets of grandparents, aunts, uncles, all of that. And so that's what they did. We went to the beach every day in the summertime at by 9 a.m. And then after the sunset, my family would go to their respective businesses and do what they needed to do. And so we had this autonomy.
Mhm.
They had this autonomy over their lives, and so we didn't know anything about a time clock. And if you heard, who my employers were, they don't have time clocks. Um, they have the honor system. But even though that was the environment that I grew up in, I still did what they told me. Go to college, get a degree, get a job, work for 40 years, get a pension. What is that anymore? And so that's what I did. I went to college. I got a degree. I got multiple degrees. It's absurd. And my goal was to get a job and work for 40 years. I always knew I would be running a company. I didn't know what company, whose company, but I always knew that being the CEO of something would be my path. And so I went to college. Leslie, I got 6 degrees, and
Did you know it would be your company?
I didn't know. I didn't, I don't think I ever thought about the possibility of that because even though my family ran their own companies, I, they didn't talk to us about that. They talked to us about the American dream, the same thing that everybody else's parents talked to them about, you
And I
know.
wonder why.
I wonder why as well. And like my grandparents are gone now, so I don't have the opportunity to ask them. I've had some conversation with my aunt, and my dad, but I'll tell you where my drive and passion comes from. What I learned about my family is that they were entrepreneurs. They never made the switch to becoming business owners, and there is a difference in those two. And oftentimes they get used as synonymous words, and they're not. And so I had a front row seat to watching them build these, make all this money as entrepreneurs, but never build the system and never become free from the day-to-day work. And so now my dad is a twin, so he and his twin, my aunt, they're in they're 69, they'll be 70 this year, and they're still working, and neither of them are working in their business. And when my grandpa, which is my dad's father, after he died, even though my dad knew the skill, like the business died 90 days later, you know. But that was because they didn't know anything at all about building the systems and the processes and things like that. And so my life's work now is teaching people to build the system, build the process. Don't settle for being just an entrepreneur. Become a business owner and become free, because we all do this so that we can be free.
And it's so interesting. I feel like those early patterns always show up later in big ways, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. So, what I'm already hearing is that so much of your experience has been shaped by your environment
Oh, yeah.
and solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about how that influences the way you approach your growth now.
Yeah. So, my dad tells there's two stories my dad always tells about me. One story is my grandfather and my dad owned an auto body shop. And my dad tells this story. I had to be like four, Leslie. I wasn't in school yet, so I know that. And if my dad did this to a kid today, they would put him in jail. Uh, but back then, it wasn't a that big of a deal. And so my dad, he and my grandpa would be, sanding cars and getting them prepared to paint them and all of that. And I would come into the shop and I would get a Coke out of the machine and so three root beer barrels out of the candy jar, put them in my pocket, and I'm getting in the car because I'm driving while they're sanding and actually painting this car. So they've taped this car up. I don't know how I'm still alive. They've taped this car up. And now I am inside of this car that they have painted. It
A
has
good
to be done.
babysitter.
Yeah. Well, the fumes by themselves. How did I survive that? And so I'm in there driving, but my dad tells a story about he and my grandfather trying to solve this problem one day. And I'm busy getting my Coke and getting my root beer barrel. And I overhear them in their conversation. And me with my 4-year-old self, I go, well, why don't you just whatever? I never turn around and look at them. I'm still doing what I'm doing. And my grandfather goes, well, hell, that makes sense. And I just go on about my business. I get in the car. My dad takes the car up. And so he tells that story because he's like, you've always had it. Like you've always made sense of things, and you've always had this ability to see things in a way that most people can't see. And even at 4 years old, you're like, why don't you do, and you're talking to us like, "Oh, yeah, you guys are so stupid. Just do this.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode, the Shields Agency. At the Shields Agency, we help small business owners navigate health insurance and employee benefits. Whether you're building a strategy for your team or refining what you already have in place, our focus is making it simple, clear, and aligned with both your business and your life. All right, let's get back to life, business, and everything in between. So let's take that piece and your problem solving. What does your company do, and how do
Yeah.
you use that with your clients?
Yeah. So the company that I sit in every day is Red Development Group, and it's a consulting firm. And so what we do, it's a business consulting firm. And what we do is we really focus on the skeleton of a business. I say that all the time because when we come in, we're looking at how are things functioning inside of your business. More often than not, what I have experienced in my own journey, when I've hired a consultant, they want to solve the symptom. You got itchy skin, put something on it. But why do you have itchy skin? What's causing that to be itchy? What's causing your turnover? We don't need to hire more people to solve your turnover. We need to find out why people are leaving, and we need to fix that. And so that is what we do. So we have 25 consultants in multiple areas. We make sure that all of our consultants have more of 20 years of experience in their respective areas. The only exception to that rule is our venture capital and private equity consultant, just because that industry is so young.
It is, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And so that's why, but we come in and we make sure you are operationally sound. We make sure you are financially stable, and we make sure the company is sustainable. And if it's not, then what do we need to do in order to build sustainability? And we do that in three steps. The very first thing we're going to do when we come in is we're going to assess the situation. It's like going to the doctor and the doctor just going, "Oh, you've got the chicken pox." It's like, you've never taken my blood pressure, you've not checked anything. So the first thing we do is we want to look at the body. We want to make sure that the blood pressure high, well, we want to do some blood work on it, so we're going to come in and do some assessments to see where are you right now. What are you doing well? Where are your areas of opportunity? And then what are the things you're not doing at all that you don't even know you should be doing, which is 9 times out of 10 where the problem comes from. And then the
It's not
second
even
step we
knowing.
take is we strategize around, okay, where do you want to be? I can come in and tell you where you should be, but it's not my dream. And the thing I tell people all the time, God didn't whisper the secret in my ear. He whispered it in your ear. So you have details that I don't have. So I'm not coming to tell you what to do. I'm coming to tell you how to get to where you know this thing is supposed to be. That's my job. And that's my team's job. And then third, once we've developed that strategy, we'll come and help you to implement the strategy. We will make sure and oversee the strategy to make sure that you get the results. Because what people don't know about strategy in my industry, 83% of the time, the strategy doesn't get executed for more than 90 days.
Hmm.
And so they don't see the results. And so again, the issue is not strategy in some cases. The issue is implementation. And because implementation is where change happens. And so we will come in and support our clients in doing that. And along the way, of course, we are measuring, we have KPIs, and we're assessing because we want to make sure that we're getting results because it matters to us, but it also matters to you, especially when you spend your hard-earned money. It's hitting your bottom line and your profit margins, and you want to know how is the work that we're doing impacting those numbers. And so we make sure that we're tracking that.
So I find that consultants usually consult because they've been there and done that, and they have experience in the shit. And
Yeah.
so my question to you is what are some of the harder seasons throughout your careers, throughout building your businesses that have taught you those lessons that you're able to then be who you are with your clients?
Yeah. That's a great question, Leslie. I just had a session with a client, and she's in the process of building what she was calling a partnership minus ownership. And I kept stopping her and telling her, stop saying partnership, because in some states, that means owner. And if you're calling them that, then legally it's binding and they can claim ownership. So stop saying that. And say, if you're say your collective or your collaborators, or using words like that. And so we were having this conversation, and she was like, well, I want to do it this way, and I want all the money to come in here, and then I want to pay out the money. And so I was sharing with her a time where we did the same thing. I mean, I did the same thing. I made the same decision, and I said I ended up with $70,000 in tax debt that nobody else carried because I didn't structure it right from the beginning. And I said, I know that sounds good, but you have to consider all of the things. You have to consider, what is your profit and loss statement going to look like? You have to consider, what is your common size statement going to look like? Is it going to tell the truth or not? Because of the way that you've structured this thing. I said, we ended up with $70,000 in debt, and we walked away with $10,000 in profit on over $600,000, and everybody else walked away with almost $100,000.
Do you find that small business owners, I think, and women business owners tend to, when we lead with heart, we tend to want to do everything the right way or what we think should be taking care of everyone else. And then I have found that sometimes I end up, stubbing my toe or, shooting myself in the foot because I tried really hard to take care of everyone and make sure everyone felt that I was worthy of owning the company and that
Mm-hmm.
I was doing my part and that I was
Mm-hmm.
taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I was slapping myself in the face.
Yeah. Um, the way that I like to put it is oftentimes, especially my male founders and owners, they don't struggle with this much at all, but it's my female founders and owners that struggle with it more. And that's cultural because in our culture, the United States, in our society, they teach us as women to take care of everybody. And we bring that idea into our business. And so when we do that, what we don't do is take care of us because we don't have a culture that teaches us to take care of us. We don't have a culture that teaches us that the first priority and the most valuable asset is you. So take care of you first so that what you have, you can pour onto other people. We're taught to take care of everybody else and pour everything you have out on the world. Become empty. That's okay. You can make it. You're strong. You can get through it. And so we bring that into our business and we drain our businesses. And the way that I like to describe it is you help a bunch of other people build tables that you don't have permission to sit at. And while you've helped them build their table, you starve.
Yeah, I find that too. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick pause in the conversation and remind everyone that if this is hitting for you or you're thinking of someone in your life who needs to hear this, send it to them. Our pod is here to share the stories and make a difference. So I always like to bring this back to the listener, and I want people to leave with something that they can actually use, something, a lesson, a takeaway. And if you had that one simple shift a business owner could make, what would that be?
Yeah. That one simple shift I would say for them to make is to get outside help. And I know that it seems like it's not that you can figure it out. Move away from the idea that I can figure it out. We weren't created like that. When God created us, He created us to be in partnership. He created us to collaborate. He created us to need each other. And so you're not going to figure your financials out. How? Where did you get the education to do it? Who did you sit under that was teaching you? And secondarily, you don't have the time, the energy, or the capacity to figure all things out. So get help because I promise you, when I first moved to Dallas, I had the great opportunity to live with a millionaire, once in a lifetime opportunity. And one of the things that he would always tell us is that it's if you want to go fast, go alone. It's an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it is I have seen it to become so true. And a lot of times we don't do it because we feel like we got to split the money but you make more money by
Mhm.
doing it, by sharing the work because the millionaire I lived with, he would also say, how do you turn 24 hours into 48? Two people. Right? Simple as that. So get outside help, get an outside perspective because you're so close to the tree that you don't realize you're standing in the forest. And sometimes your answer is three trees to the right. But if your nose is up against this one tree, you are never going to see the third tree to the right. So get outside help. But make sure that Leslie asked the question, how do you know this? What have you been through? How have you need to be asking those questions. And I tell entrepreneurs all the time because we will make decisions based on our heart. Interview three people. Talk to three people before you decide to hire somebody. And yes, go with your gut, but know the difference between your gut and your heart. because
What
there's
do
a
you think that difference is?
the difference between if you feel pity or you feel like I need to help somebody, that's going to be your heart. Your gut is going to make your ear go, "Ooh, I hadn't thought about that." Oh, I tell people all the time, you can tell an expert because if an expert asks you three questions, really it's not three. By the time that expert gets to that second question, you're going, I didn't, I, I'd never thought about that. If they get to that third question and you're not already going, I hadn't thought about that, then they've probably not spent enough time yet doing what they've done in order to be able to ask the right question.
I love this, and I'll tell you why I love this. So when I do the pods, right, and sometimes I get done, and it's hard to like take the nuggets out when you're in the middle of the conversation, but I'll go back and I'll listen to it, and I'll tell you what I know is going to resonate with me when I listen to this again is I am thinking of I've always been huge on my gut, right? Like my gut, I know I'm lead by my gut, and then I made a mistake one time, and it was like it's happened once or twice that it was like huge. Like how did I miss this? Like, how did I miss this really big thing? And I thought was going with my intuition and I thought I was paying attention, but I was super wrong. And I think that I am going to continue replay that in my head. Was that my gut or was that my heart? And I think that that's so impactful. That is so impactful.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think people will really hear that and feel that.
yeah. Leslie, it's very, I've learned the hard way that it's very important for us to make sure that the people we bring into our companies really know the thing that they say that they know. If I now the way that I hire, it doesn't matter who it is. The way that I hire, if I feel like, you know what, I can really help this person grow, I'm not hiring them. I need to feel like, oh my God, this person has information that it would take me 30 years to get. That needs to be my feeling. Not will I help that person grow? Absolutely. But that cannot be my primary feeling as the leader of my organization. Now, if I was a manager or I was a supervisor, then I could go, you know what? I could really mentor that person. I could really coach that person. I could really help that person grow. But that's not what my role is. I am the leader. I am the CEO. I am the
Mind
founder.
blown. Okay.
My role is to find experts who know stuff that I don't know, and it would take me years to learn and get them to come and do it for me. That is my job.
Absolutely love it. If you had one piece of grounded advice that you were going to leave our listeners with to growing a business in smart, sustainable ways, what would you want them to remember?
The thing I would want them to remember is that you are enough, but so are others, and you need them.
And you need them. Okay, let's have a little fun. We'll close it out. Little rapid fire questions. What's one word that describes how you lead?
Consistent.
Big picture or details first?
Huge picture. Ha, you better wrangle me in.
A book, podcast, or idea you come back to often?
Mm, okay, I'm gonna go with books because I love books. I love podcasts and I'm writing ideas down all the time, but I am an avid reader, meaning I am reading three or four books at a time. So I'm gonna give a couple of books, if you don't mind. Right now, I am reading this book called Drama Free. The author is Nedra Nedar or RA. I'll send it to you so you
Mhm.
can put the link in the bio. But this book is called Drama Free. It is about building relationships. And when I tell you that, I said, God, I don't know what you did. You told this woman all my business. And I recommend that book for entrepreneurs because I went to a conference and one of the things that I learned is that the people who have the highest rate of depression and mental health challenges first are pastors and church leaders. Second are entrepreneurs. And so I always try to do my best to help entrepreneurs manage that, and learn things about themselves so that um, they don't get stuck in that. So that's one of those books. A book that I read every single year is called Business Secrets of the Bible by Rabbi Lapkin. Every single year, I read it because that Rabbi Lapkin knows some stuff about money that I was like, I don't want to. Well, why didn't anybody tell me this before? I certainly would have done that. Rabbi Lapkin made me fire my accountant, uh, start my trust. Like Rabbi Lapkin made me make some decisions. Another one that I read every single year. I do not recommend this one to everybody because spiritually, not everybody is ready for it, but it is. I read it twice a year, and it is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
I
That
have some books
book.
that I haven't. Typically, when you ask this question, you get a couple of the similar things. That's new.
Yeah, that
Okay.
one is, yeah.
Morning routine or straight into the day?
Oh no, morning routine. I'm a Gemini. I need to ease into the day, and so I have my process for what I need to do that gets me ready for my day, and I have my process at the end of the day to get me ready for the next day and to wrap up my day. So I'm very process driven, but I'm a strategist. So
All right, last question. Something outside of work that makes you feel most like yourself.
the water,
Hmm.
the water. If I'm at a beach or I'm from Michigan. So the water, the lake, the waterfalls takes me away.
Beautiful. All right, where can people connect with you and keep up with what you're doing?
The best place is going to be on LinkedIn, but I am on Instagram, on Facebook, all of the socials. I'm not on TikTok or anything like that, but so that's going to be the best place to connect with me. My email is Collette@reddevelopmentgroup.com. So that's another way to connect with me. But if you just do a Google search for Collette Portis, you'll find
It comes out
a bunch of stuff.
a bunch
So
of stuff.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here for this conversation. And if this episode gave you, as a listener, something to think about or helped you in any way, share it with somebody who would appreciate it. And don't forget to follow, leave a review, and I'll see you next time on Life, Business, and Everything in Between. Thank you for tuning in to Life, Business, and Everything in Between. If today's episode gave you something to think about or made you feel less alone in the hustle, we'd love it if you follow the show and share it with a friend. Real stories, real talk, and just enough chaos to keep it interesting. We'll see you next time.